people refer to as the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC. Its capital, Kinshasa, you may or may not have been there, is not a city on a par with London or Washington DC, but it's still a bustling city. Its most famous river has to be the Congo River and the rainforests. Practically the whole country is covered by them. A safari through them will be very nice if you manage to escape all the insects and species that may or may not have even been discovered yet. But I'm not here to talk about all of that. I'm here to talk about its array of precious materials, the same materials that our devices depend on, and Zaire's population that is divided into tribes. I'll get more into the population and rare materials even more later. Zaire and countries like it are usually thought of as poor and underdeveloped. But if Zaire really exploited its materials, it will be even more developed than Great Britain. If that were to happen, it will be similar to Wakanda in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a nation similar to Zaire that exploited its materials, in this case vibranium, and became highly developed. Zaire has an appalling rate of child labour, most of it stemming from developed nations. See how I mentioned that there are millions of tons of rare materials stored underneath Zaire? Well, these materials are mined by children for companies that stem from developed nations. Ever bought a phone or had your parents buy you one? If so, raise your hand. If you're my age or above, you most likely have. Well, cobalt and coltan is mined in Zaire, mostly by children, and the materials mined are the same materials that make up all the devices that are produced today. I'm not saying that it all comes from Zaire, but a significant amount does come from Zaire and its surroundings. So, when you're holding a device, you're holding materials that came from Zaire and its surroundings. I'm usually reluctant to use devices, as I know very well that they are made by the suffering of my people. Hundreds die on site, many more getting severe injuries, and all this suffering is put into making iPhones and MacBooks and cars and all other devices. This can't be stopped. As demand rises for new devices and cars, companies have to do this to satisfy buyers. To free the people of Zaire, the country will need a new leader. A leader who will protect its borders from private businesses wanting to take their resources. And that could be anyone in this room, or anyone listening to me say this. It hopefully could and would be myself. But for now, nobody has stepped up yet. These private businesses can sometimes be cruel. They can sometimes dig up entire villages just to get the raw materials stored underneath them. But it wasn't always like this though. All of what I said earlier started before the birth and after the death of Mobutu, a former president of Zaire. In developed nations, he was considered a dictator, as he wouldn't allow them to breach Zaire's borders and take the materials stored underneath it. But during Mobutu's leadership over Zaire, the people are happy. Nobody would ever breach the borders. But after his death, all of what I said was set into motion. And even using manipulation tactics, these private businesses and contractors might have even thrown Zaire into the depths of civil war. During this unrest between the dozens of tribes, private businesses and contractors can now sneak in and take the materials stored underneath it. And that was it, still, till this day. Believe it or not, this is all the disgusting truth of all the luxury of products we have. The people listening right now might not care at all, but just know that this is indeed true. I one day wish to go and visit my homeland to see how it really is for myself. As I said earlier, the only way for the people of Zaire to be freed is for another president like Mobutu to step up. This person would have to be smart thinking, someone who would never give in to corruption. They would have to be adamant and decisive. But if someone like this were to step up and take control of Zaire, all developed countries will be the losers, as you wouldn't be able to produce enough technology for their customers and in turn, their population. But the thing is, life is unfair, and the only thing I'll leave off with is, the next time you buy any device, at least try to think about the suffering children, the same children like you, and at least try to think about what I just said. Thank you.